evening, everyone. Today is September 3rd, 2025. I now call the Sherborn Board of Health meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. Given this is a virtual meeting, board members are required by open meeting law to announce their presence, and so we will do so via alphabetical roll call.
Steve Constantine, present.
Julie Dreyfus, present.
Diana Hook, present.
Rebecca Honeywell, present.
Thank you. I am delighted to say we have an unusually short agenda this evening with only 2 items. Has anybody been made aware of a emergency item within the last 48 hours where we would need to amend? I have not heard of anything. Okay, we'll continue this agenda. And I see we have a number of community members here who are potentially here for either both of our items or at least for one of them. So why don't we start with the update on the farm pond algae blooms. I am going to, let's see, our administrator, Sarah, has been working incredibly hard on both of these issues, doing lots of back and forth with the state and other agencies, and has put together some great research and background. And so I'm going to have her present the background information for the board and for the community this evening. And then we will proceed with the board having some discussion, any questions that we have, and then I would like to then open it up to community questions or comments. In the terms of the HABs, there is no action item for our board to take this evening. This is more an update for board members and community members. So Sarah, when you're ready, feel free to go ahead and start with the background.
Hello, my name is Sarah. I'm the new administrator for those of you who I might not have met before. And this is just sort of an update on the algae blooms and cyanobacteria in Farm Pond. So I have put this together for us. So this is a pretty detailed timeline from August 5th to August 30th. And well, now it's September 3rd. Essentially, that there was an alert from the Sherborn Yacht Club of the water having a blue-green tint, and there was evidence of geese near the docks, and that we also received another report of potential cyanobacteria blooms in the water, and I have the associated images as well here. So I'll pull those up now. So these were the 2 images that we received on the 25th regarding Farm Pond. And these were originally shared with the Farm Pond Advisory Committee, and then they were shared with us after the fact. August 26th, we posted an official advisory for Farm Pond regarding the potential presence of cyanobacteria. And on August 27th, I was able to get into contact with the cyanobacteria coordinator from the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. And I sent her the images from the 25th. So I sent her these 3 right here because those were the only ones I had in my inbox at the time of the phone call. I could not find these ones. So I sent her these, and she confirmed our suspicions that there was cyanobacteria and we should issue an official advisory. So we did the official reporting through the state. And if you did not know, every day they update the state website with the potential blooms in public bodies of water. So the next day, on the 28th, they conducted testing, and we were able to get the results on the evening of the 29th, but I didn't get them until very late on the 29th. So I officially reported them on the 30th to the group, that the bacteria levels were 2,400 cells per milliliter, which is below the state guideline of 70,000 cells per milliliter. And there was no toxin that could be registered with the measurements that they used. So their official recommendation was to keep to have the advisory stay in place. However, because of the event that's happening on the 6th, this perimeter swim, we were told that we might not need secondary testing if the levels were 0. However, they were not 0. So the state guidelines are to test 1 week apart. And because of the perimeter swim, we'll get those results the next day. So they're testing tomorrow morning, and we should get the results on the 5th. And we will be able to either officially lift the advisory or keep it in place if for some reason the number jumps to above 70,000. And I will continue to communicate all of that information with everybody. So another thing that they did ask from me was on the 27th after my phone call was to share more recent images. So these are images of Farm Pond from the 27th. This one on the bottom was found to be particularly concerning, which continued the expediting of the testing of Farm Pond, but it might have just been a shadow work layer. And then this is the official report, and I kind of summarized it up here of what was found. Again, nothing concerning on the state level or what we have. And then the next steps is that we'll be retesting tomorrow. We'll keep the advisory in place until we have confirmation of the levels. And as soon as I get them, I will be able to share the results. But at this time, we will continue to recommend residents avoid Farm Pond. And then I do have some background information up here about cyanobacteria and harmful algae blooms. I don't need to read all of that off to everybody unless anyone has any questions particularly about it.
And so through all of this, FPAC has been continuing to be a participant and collaborating with us on this information. And I also believe, and there might be overlap, the organizers of the perimeter swim, I'm not sure who those individuals are, have also been updated on the status and will continue to be updated. Is that correct, Sarah?
Yes, it was my understanding. I don't know who those individuals are personally with the perimeter swim, but it's my understanding that they have been kept in the loop of the situation at hand.
Okay. Board members, again,
Julie has a question.
yeah, I was gonna say, let's hang on one second, Jeannie. Let's just see if there are any immediate questions from board members or comments from board members, and then we'd love to take your question and any other questions or comments from the public. Any board members, questions or comments?
I'm interested to know if the Department of Public Health, I can't remember, I don't know how many years the perimeter swim has happened. But I don't know. I also don't think that it's ever been canceled because of cyanobacteria, but we've only had cyanobacteria at Farm Pond for very recently. So I was wondering if the Department of Public Health had made, if there are anything that we could advise swimmers that would in any way make it safe to swim. Like, is there anything that people can do? Or do we have to just blanket say, as long as we see cyanobacteria and can measure the bacteria in the water, it's not considered to be safe?
So right now, the testing that was done on the 28th showed a marked drop in the algae levels and did not indicate any presence of toxins. And so the advisory that is still in effect is because that is the standard protocol of the state until you've had another kind of negative test a week later. And so at this point, it looks like the swimming event would be able to continue unless we suddenly see a spike tomorrow morning. Then they would have to re-advise. So I think at this point, swimmers are aware that this has happened, that these are events that happen and are transient. It is, up to them to swim. But in terms of the presence of toxins or other high density of algae, we at least know as of the 28th, things were looking good. I have not been to the pond today, and we can certainly hear any reports back from any of the Farm Pond Advisory folks or anyone else, or even Steve, who I know is often over at the pond. So go ahead, Diana, your hand was next. You're muted, Diana.
You're muted.
I'm muted myself. Sorry. I had a question about the pictures taken on the 28th. It seems when I look at them, it looks like 3 of them are in a somewhat close. Yes, I'm looking at one side and it looks like that's the tree. There's the tree, beautiful reflective water. And is the other, the last picture, are they all different portions of the pond? Because the last picture looks like it doesn't belong with the set, but it could just be that it's, a different section. That looks awful, the last picture.
So I actually took these pictures and there's a few more. I just didn't include them because a lot of them looked very similar. So this picture is right when you walk into Farm Pond where those 2 little chairs are. Then this is before you walk onto the docks on the right side, and then this is on the left side. This is a little bit further out on the left side, and then this is looking back at the shore from the docks. And the reason that I took these particular photos is because these photos are in that area, which was what was concerning to the state, and they requested specifically these photos. And her name is Rebecca, or Rachel, sorry. Rachel did mention that this particular image was potentially concerning, but it is very likely that it looks green because of the sun and the trees.
Trees on it.
So these are all in relatively the same area, but that is because of where these pictures were taken. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Can I try to reword? I didn't do a very good job of asking my question. I know that there have been other communities that have had similar algae blooms, and in the past with other types of environmental potential toxins or concerns, sometimes there are measures that can be taken by a community that could counteract it. With cyanobacteria, the only thing we can do is sort of wait till the temperature drops and keep our fingers crossed and keep measuring? Or is there anything that we might be able to do that would in any way be beneficial?
As a prophylaxis or as a rescue measure?
Probably both.
Yeah.
I'm just interested. This is our first experience, but unfortunately, it's becoming more prevalent across the state. And so I was just curious if we've learned anything from other communities that the DPH could help us learn from.
I think that's a
They
good
probably
question.
would have offered it if there was something, I guess. So maybe that's a silly question.
I think, and certainly Sarah might have some thoughts. I think that the presentation given back in the spring by Hillary Kenyon, and I'll let a member of FPAC speak to this because you guys are far more current than I am, talked about ways to manage the nutrient loads in the pond. There's kind of different measures that can be taken, and I imagine that there's going to be a community discussion around that. That would be more of a prophylaxis to manage the nutrient levels in the pond. And so it's not necessarily to reduce the number of blooms that we're seeing, but kind of preventing them from increasing. But again, that's my memory of her presentation. I'll let someone else speak to that. But it's a good question, Rebecca, and I think we would certainly support any of the science behind it. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I've been at the pond a few days last week and this week, and the signage that's been put up seems to be working. We've had very, very few visitors this morning. I think there was only one person that came to swim, but they all stopped right at the stop sign where the gate guard is and read about what's going on, and most of them just turn around and leave. The one person that did swim today did come and talk to me and asked if it was safe, and told them basically, here's what's going on, and it's at your own risk that you're swimming. And then the second thing, and I'm not sure if it's related to the algae bloom or not, is last year we had a lot of small little dead fish that were washing up on the beach. I think that was around July timeframe. This year we had a few, not a whole lot, and just from walking the beach, I haven't seen any in the past few days. So just wanted to add to the report.
Thank you. And have you, and I think, can I confirm through you or from someone else, have we seen any new blooms since the initial report on the 25th?
I'm sorry, Julie, I missed that.
The first reports of a bloom are observational, right? And the
Right.
first report that we had of this recent bloom was on the 25th. It then looks like, based on the testing performed on the 28th, that those blooms were subsiding, which is consistent with what we've seen in the past, that they tend to subside within a few days. But I just want to confirm that we have not seen, I assume we have not seen anything.
I don't believe we've seen anything. I know Jeannie was up last week after the first bloom. We walked the beach and we didn't really see much. And I know she's got her testing going on. The first set of tests came back, like Sarah reported, pretty much negative. And then she has a second set of tests that we'll have probably by Friday.
Yeah.
I'd like to just clarify that the lack of blooms does not indicate a lack of cyanobacteria, because after blooms dissipate, they can form, they're called mats on the floor, and you can't. So it looks good. It might be a little bit.
I think your connection is a little choppy. Is Sarah frozen up for other people as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
she's moving a little bit.
I think you're back, Sarah.
Oh,
Go ahead.
no. Oh, my internet.
You were explaining
connection.
bacteria blooms as mats.
Oh, yes. They kind of settle on the bottom of the floor of the body of water. And just because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not there. And they can actually be more active on the floor and can produce toxin there. So it might be a little bit premature to say that just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. But again, I'm not a cyanobacteria expert. This is my general understanding of the situation. If anyone has further information on it that is a little bit more than that, obviously, please share.
That's good information. Jeannie, you're still there. I can't find you on my stream of people, but Jeannie, if you
I am here.
go ahead.
I just wanted to tell you that we are in contact with the people that are running the perimeter swim. I will, as soon as we get the results back on Friday, I will let Michelle know. Either way, if it's on or if it's off, if it's on, I will go down and pull every one of those signs. So that's what we are in contact with them, so they know definitely what's going on.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that.
We also have had people call town hall because they have been swimming. And they just want to know what's going on. They saw the signs, but they don't see anything. So we just try and tell them that it's still no swimming and it's swim at your own risk. So that's how we're looking at it.
Okay. Do you think that there is a need to explain the state protocol and the guidelines for
I think
testing and
when
retesting?
people call, I've told them that we had it tested. I've told them what the results were, which were well below what the state, says is dangerous. So, and that we have to have the second test, and that's what the protocol is right now.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else from the public or from FPAC? Questions or comments?
Can I, sorry. Tom is a good boy and raised his hand. Tom, I'll let you go first.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. Thanks to Sarah and the board for focusing on this, because has been mentioned. We just started seeing this 5 years ago. And we're just, the prediction is we're going to see a lot more of this in the coming years, unfortunately. I just want to add a couple things. I was asked about the Admiral Fun Below perimeter swim. That started about 18 or 19 years ago. So it's been going on quite a while. And as far as I know, it's never been canceled. So just so that gets answered. And in terms of, it's great that we finally got the state to test. When we first started seeing these blooms in 2020 and then in 2022 were the 2 years where we saw the worst. At that point, the state wouldn't test, and towns were on their own. So this is very good that the state is assisting the many lakes in Massachusetts that are running into this. But the other thing to add is, I mean, don't kid yourself with these tests. The movement of the cyanobacteria, both in depth in the pond, as was mentioned, from the bottom to the middle of the water column to the surface, it's constantly changing, and the locations of the populations, whether they're near the public beach or near the yacht club, or totally the other side of the pond or the center of the pond. So the testing, it's great. It's better than nothing, but it's a real shot in the dark when it comes to in my mind, protecting public health. And I actually kind of like what the state is doing. A general guidance: if you see these huge blooms, consider the water unhealthy, and maybe stay out of it for a couple of weeks. So I just want to add that. I'm done for now. Melinda, your turn.
Actually, that's perfect, because I'll just piggyback on that. I think I just wanted to sort of throw in, as somebody who swims at the pond pretty much daily for many months, I just wanted to share my experience on the 25th, because that bloom was absolutely enormous, right? So when I got to the pond later in the afternoon, I was shocked, because of course we've never seen anything that big, that blue, that huge, and it lasted for hours. So the blooms that we've seen in the past few years are super transient, right? They're kind of small, they're a little and they don't seem to last very long. And by that, I mean, my memory, Tom, you can correct me, is, like less than an hour. I mean, maybe like, 20 minutes later, we can't figure out where it was. This one was so different. And so one of the things I'd like, like FPAC and the town and the Board of Health and maybe Concom, I think we need to really look carefully at how we are monitoring for these blooms and then how we're responding. So I think once Sarah got on top of this and reached out to the state, that was fantastic. Jeannie's like, just tell me the signs you want me to put up. Like, she's ready to go, but we don't have this packaged up yet. And my concern is, when I went down to the pond on that Monday, when we had the giant bloom, no one could see it from the town beach. And when I got on the paddleboard and I went down past the yacht club, I was like, oh my goodness, it is extending from the yacht club all the way down to the corner past Murchison's, right? So it's that entire stretch of shoreline, but the beachgoers don't know. So we don't have the signage out yet. We knew it was there, but we weren't communicating that to the public, and the beach was still open. So I think it's really important that we all work together. Again, number one, to start talking about how are we going to sort of if at all possible, do a sort of more complete job of monitoring the pond. We have a number of abutters, and of course the yacht club. They're really good about checking in when they see something, but I feel like we we need to take this more seriously and not rely on the sort of haphazardness of that. And then the second piece is when we do have something that's significant, how do we sort of stay on top of the movement of this bloom? And how do we make sure we're communicating that like very clearly to the public? So I think the signs are helpful. I hear what Steve is saying, like they probably deterred people. I've still been going down to the pond, and even though we have signs, not everyone sees them and they still go down. They don't know exactly what they mean. Is there anything we can do better for that? I'm just checking my notes to see if there's anything else I wanted to say. Yeah, I think that really captures it. So maybe just to summarize, just sort of how do we make sure we're looking at the pond as a whole unit and really looking at the reservation as a whole? Because if we stand on the town beach and say, oh look, we don't see any blooms, as Tom already explained, there could be one literally around the corner right from where young children are swimming. Thanks.
Melinda, do you know of
Lovely.
any other techniques
sorry.
that council? Oh, I'm sorry, Melinda. Do you know? I mean, I don't know if other towns use drones to monitor, to be able to get up high and get a visual. Then again, you might not be able to see things. Do you know of other techniques? Because I mean, the pond is sizable, right? It's really hard to see all of the various nooks and corners, and relying on just that casual observational data. You're right, is not reliable. Have you heard of a technique that works well?
I haven't. I mean, I can offer ideas, but no, off the top of my head, I don't know.
Okay.
And I might just quickly add to that. I think that we're, if I could sort of speak on behalf of everyone, we're all sort of hoping that we could manage this in a way that keeps the pond safe, gives good information, and allows people choice. But there's risks to that, right? So that sort of ramps up that idea, because I think the other surrounding lakes and ponds, they just close. They say, oops, we saw something and now we're going to be shut down for a few weeks. So, but it's something we could look into.
Yeah, I think that would be an interesting course of action. Mary Ann.
Well, I'd like to add some reassuring words here. I'm an aquatic scientist, and many of these cyanobacteria blooms are not toxic. Perhaps the group knows this, but what's problematic is that we don't know what triggers the production of the toxin. In other words, it's impossible to predict that right now because not enough is known. But I guess I'm trying to, I guess, reduce the level of alarm here. It's wonderful that the state is being very cautious, and I agree with Tom. I think that their protocol for handling these is very good. But again, not all of these blooms produce toxins. In fact, my understanding is it's fairly unusual for them to begin producing these toxins. And then I'll add one other thing. Cyanobacteria, many of them produce a cyst life stage, and that drops down to the sediments. And when conditions become right, the cyst germinates and can create another bloom. And that's most likely to occur in the summer, as I think everyone knows here. I'm not aware of any cyanobacteria blooms being toxic on the lake substrate, but Sarah may know more about this. I think it's Sarah Lapin may know more about this than I do.
That's very helpful information, Marianne. Thank you. Jeannie, I think you had your hand up next.
Sorry, if I can add one more thing.
Sure.
I think the idea of using a drone is a very good one. Because it might tell us where these blooms originate? You know, in what part of the pond are they first appearing? And then once they move to the surface, of course, wind action is going to move them around. But I like that idea.
I don't know how we obtain a drone and who operates it and how the information is communicated and all of those fun logistics. But I feel like that's a solvable problem. Jeannie, go ahead.
First of all, the fire department has a drone, so if we needed it, I'm sure they would let us borrow one. But I just wanted to tell everybody that at the time that this was first spotted, the beach was closed. The lifeguards weren't on duty anymore. We didn't have waterfront directors. If it had been during the season, we would have shut the beach down immediately, which I believe we did a couple of years ago. Unlike other towns, when Natick and Holliston and Ashland had this problem, they shut the parking lot, nobody could go in, and that kind of solved it. But I don't think anybody wants to try and approach that again. So we did the best we could, and as soon as the signage was done, but now I think we just put the signs up and just say this is what it is, and if we have to change signs after we get testing done, we can do that.
Yeah. Sounds good. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, so just a question for Marianne or Tom. Is there a season for these? I guess what I'm trying to find out is, do we get our first frost and all of a sudden we don't have to worry about these? Or is there a time period like between April and September that we should be more vigilant in trying to be aware of these?
I mean, based on my experience, they're much more likely to occur in summer. You know, when you have long stretches of hot, sunny weather followed by a rain event or a sudden cold snap or strong winds, because this brings nutrients up into what's called the photic zone, and it can stimulate these blooms. So, I mean, Tom may know something that I don't know, but from my experience, they're almost always in the summer, sometimes in the early fall.
I totally agree with that, except, and I don't have it in front of me, Melinda might remember, we got a sizable bloom, not as big as this one, but we got one. Was it in early May or late April? It was very early at the Kingsbury Beach on the north side this year. Very early in the year.
Yep, I think it was May.
Was there a stretch of hot weather? Does anyone remember? You know, unusually warm temperatures during May?
There may have, we'd have to look
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
I vaguely remember there being a couple day kind of warmer than average in May. But that's just my memory, and you should not go on that for sure. Mary Nutra.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question. I think it's for Marianne. Given that this is probably going to be an off and on problem going forward into the indeterminate future, it would be really good to be able to test locally and quickly. Not only the current test, correct me if I'm wrong, is it for the organism or for the toxin?
Tom, I think Tom knows better than I do, but I think the state is testing both. You know, they're quantifying how many cells are in the water, and they're testing for the toxin. Now, I agree with you. If we had some way of testing for the toxin, I think that could be really helpful. But Tom, maybe you have some knowledge of this. I'm not aware of any tests that citizens can use.
We looked into this 5 years ago, and we had our first bloom. Sarah, if you raise your a slide up where you had the short table, yes, The microcystin abraxas test, that's actually a very simple strip test that anybody on the call here could do, but it tests for a very narrow range of cyanotoxins, not a broad range for all the different cyanobacteria genus. So that's a real minimal kind of test. Yeah, the town could spend a couple $1,000s on those strips and do that. But
But Tom, is the microcystin test, is that a detecting the organism or the toxin?
that's the toxin, that test.
Oh, okay. So at least, you know, if it's a strip test, it's available.
Yeah.
It would definitely cut down the the number of days we have to close the beach because we don't know whether the bacterium that's there is producing a toxin or not.
Well, the real problem is you don't know where to test. Do you test where you saw the bloom that was generated from a wind event, or do you test at the beach where most of the exposure is?
Probably
It's
both. You'd want to
yeah,
definitely test at the beach because the toxin isn't going to stay put with the bloom.
yeah, it's really hit or miss.
Anyway, it would help because even now it's hit and miss. You have to take a water sample, you send it to the state. You know, at least we'd get quick results. We could move it around as needed. It would be really better for the town. Anyway, just a thought.
Mhm. Mhm. Um, and I can't, Marianne Moore, are you re-raising your hand, or is that your hand up from before?
Oh, sorry, I should have lowered it.
That's just checking, no problem. And just before we move on to our next topic, I know Rebecca Honeywell had asked the question about any type of prevention that can be done. Does anyone from FPAC want to, in like, 100 words, kind of summarize what Hillary presented back in the spring? Tom, go for it.
I would just say we're anxiously, I'm glad you brought up Hillary's name. We are actually awaiting her report that hasn't been sent to the town yet on her 2 years of study, because she's supposed to have in that a whole detailed section on recommendations for control of cyanobacteria. So the town invested about $85,000 in this 2-year study. So I think that's a big component on what happens, what needs to happen next.
Yeah, that makes sense. Good to know. Any further questions or comments on this topic before we move to our one and only other agenda item? I'm not seeing any other hands. Sarah, did you have something you wanted to add on this?
Not that I can recall.
Okay, no problem. I know you were going to say something before, but if we moved on from it, no problem.
I have a question. I just remembered something which maybe we should have added to the agenda. Maybe it's too late, but is the West Nile virus on our agenda for discussion tonight?
That's where we're going next.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That was a great segue.
Read
You
my
said it
mind.
halfway. What's that? All right, Sarah, did you want to add to the LG? I know we're going to West Nile. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I got excited.
This is perfect. This is perfect. So the other agenda item is to talk about the potential for mosquito spraying through these Central Massachusetts Mosquito Control Project. I think we should call them the Mosquito Project for short here. There's been some background on this that I'm going to have. Again, Sarah's been very proactive. I'm going to let Sarah present it. For this, there is a decision that the board needs to make, and it will ultimately be whether or not we authorize the mosquito project to come in and do spraying within a very finite area, what that spraying would look like. For the FPAC folks or any advocates of Farm Pond, this pertains potentially to the Farm Pond watershed, and we would certainly welcome you staying if you feel like sticking around. Sarah, do you want to give some background on this topic?
Sure thing. So we can go and essentially have this laid out the same way, but if anyone wants me to jump around to any of these pieces, I can. So quick timeline from August 26th until now. The Central Mass Mosquito Control Project, as Julie, sorry if my air conditioner is too loud. If it is, I can shut it off.
We can hear you fine.
Okay, perfect. The Mosquito Control Project Director reached out to our health agent, Mark Oram, who I see is here today. Hi, Mark. That to confirm that we understood from the state that there was a mosquito in one of our catch basins that tested positive for West Nile virus. And I actually today, after I already submitted this document to the board, received a better understanding of where our catch basins are. So if anyone has any questions about that, I can dive into that a little bit more as well. And so what they have already done is they have begun conducting larvicide or larva control in said catch basins, which is a method of preventing mosquitoes essentially from reaching adulthood and also disrupts the life cycle of mosquitoes, which carry West Nile virus. On the 27th, they sent over a detailed spray recommendation around the trapping site that did produce the positive pool with a West Nile virus. And I was able to contact the director, Tim, to communicate further, ask some additional questions about what would be using and how we could appropriately communicate this with residents. On the 28th, I was able to meet with our co-chairs, first with co-chair Julie Dreyfus to talk a little bit more about more specific questions, and then we were able to meet with our other co-chair again to discuss putting this on the agenda for today. And then on the 2nd, so yesterday, I spoke further with the director to make sure that I had all the accurate information. So this is again all the most recent information I have regarding the state of the spraying. So I can show you. This is the spray recommendation that I received. Oh no. Okay. I am gonna try to make it. Yes.
You
Thank
need
you.
to get rid of that person.
Sorry about that. This is the proposed testing area. So this is Farm Pond. I can't rotate it here, it looks like. But essentially they would just be spraying on Farm Road and Forest Street right here.
And to clarify for folks, that's, oh, sorry, Sarah.
Oh,
That's,
no.
if you think the triangle over by the trustees, Rocky Narrows, if you go down Forest till you come to the T at Farm, and then you go left, you would go up to South Street is the proposed area. In case you couldn't turn your head sideways to read the map. Go ahead, Sarah. And that was the recommendation from the mosquito project on the area for the adulticide spraying in particular.
Yes.
Do we know the agent or the agents that they're planning to use for that?
Yes. So the standard that they use for that is called Zenivex. Zenivex is a
How do you spell it?
Zenivex
E4.
E4.
E4. Do you
Yep.
know if it's water soluble?
It is I don't know off the top of my head. I do have here sort of the overview of the impacts of it. it is toxic to aquatic organisms, and runoff can be hazardous to fish or other aquatic organisms, and it can be toxic to certain bees when they are active. However, the mosquito control project does take some steps to avoid these situations. So one of those is by using what is called an ultra low volume spray or ULV spraying system. So when they spray the Zenovex on the affected areas, it dissipates within 6 to 12 hours, which is enough time for it to effectively work as a pesticide for mosquitoes, but does not give it enough time to accumulate into potential runoff and potentially harm aquatic animals and other aquatic organisms. And the time of day that they do the spraying is in the evening, and at that time bees are not active, so it's not harmful to bees unless they are actively pollinating. I don't know why that is, but I do know that when they spray at night and the bees are not actively pollinating, the interaction with Zenovex is not toxic to them. So if they're just interacting with it casually, I guess is the one way you could say it, it's not toxic to them.
It says that it's highly toxic to aquatic organisms, fish and invertebrates, and some mammals.
Yes, aquatic organisms when there's runoff that happens, when it's sprayed in areas that impact water systems like that. However, the ULV spraying doesn't impact water systems because of the location and the amount that is used.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt. I would love to comment at some point, but I can wait.
I have more information
Yeah.
on ULVs. So ULV sprayers dispense very, very fine droplets of the Zenovex that stay in the air and kill flying mosquitoes on contact. This is all taken directly from the Mosquito Project website, and I have confirmed it through other sources as well. And then all of the spraying is done after sunset and or before sunrise to protect pollinators like bees. And the way that it is mounted on the truck, because it is mounted on the back of a pickup truck and it is sprayed, it kind of looks like a water fan. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those, but that's what it looks like. And they are controlled electronically, and they use GIS systems to map where water sources are that have aquatic organisms in them so that they know not to spray there. So, and the range is very small for the ULV. It's very concentrated area of a not very concentrated material, if that makes sense. So this is a little bit more about the Zenovex. It's 4% of etofenprox, which is sprayed at a rate and speed that presents a minimal risk to humans and other pets and non-target species like those pollinators. And there's also, again, a low to birds. And then the residue, because that could be a potential concern, is not toxic because it has a very small half-life and a very high LD50, which 50% of the dosage would be to become lethal to a human or another mammal of similar size.
Sarah,
does that answer your question?
Yeah. Sarah, I'm trying to, because I was researching a number of the potential pesticides, and so I might have gotten them confused. Zenovex rapidly degrades in full sunlight. Is that correct? Do you remember from your research? Or Mark?
Yes.
Mark knows. I don't. And I think, and Daryl would be excellent to speak to this. She is not here. I think that the take home I had and conversing with Daryl about this was the intensity and directness of the sunlight will influence the rate that it degrades. And so if with this were to be sprayed and then it was a cloudy day, it would not necessarily degrade as fast as if we had a nice bright sunny day. And I think that is where there is the potential for runoff, depending on if it were to rain the next day.
And I would ask, do we have anyone here from Central Mass Mosquito Control Program tonight? No, they usually will go to a Board of Health meeting. I would suggest maybe inviting them to another meeting. So some of these questions could be answered by them as well. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Sarah. I wasn't trying to derail you. Do you want to keep going?
Yeah, so I can, I don't want to interrupt you if you're still talking. I would love to say a couple things.
Yeah, let's see, because Sarah's just kind of giving us the background of kind of what we're being
Yeah, no, I
presented
know, I
with,
didn't
so
want
we
to
can.
interrupt her, but I just,
Yeah,
sorry.
totally. I did the same thing. I'm just as good. Sarah, I'm trying to see if you had more in your presentation. So it sounds like the larvicide has already been applied.
Yes, I'm trying to pull that up right now because I got the report today of where they've been treating. And I just want to make sure that I can share that with you and it is accurate. So, it go away. Sorry, not you. My computer is.
Well, Sarah is, take your time, Sarah, to pull it up.
Well, maybe I could say,
Yeah, I was gonna say, Rebecca, do you want to ask your question? Otherwise, I was gonna
well,
see
it's
if
not a
Mark had
question.
anything to add.
I mean, it's interesting because, I mean, we've known about West Nile virus has been around for a really long time, but unfortunately, it's sort of a weighing one public health risk for another. And we know that since it was first reported in the United States, which is like 20 to 25 years ago, we have what we think is that the incidence of West Nile virus is actually probably much higher than the reported cases because the vast majority of the infections are mild. And so it's possible that only 40% of cases are reported, and of the 40% that are reported, less than 20% actually have serious risk to the central nervous system. So, but the problem is that the vulnerable patients are, the very elderly, very young, and sick, people with immune suppression or, cancer, chemotherapy. There's, anyone who is vulnerable. But interestingly, those are also the same population who are at risk of if their well is contaminated. So it's definitely true. And I think that it's really good that this, I know that historically, that's why I'm glad it's this drug, but because it has a really short half-life, but it's definitely true. So it means it's broken down quickly. But it's kind of the risk of, we have a slightly different risk in Sherborn than the vast majority of the population because we have this extremely unique situation of having all private wells which are not regulated. The only things that are regulated are the public water supplies, but it doesn't mean that the risks don't exist. It just means it isn't regulated, so we don't have support. And the same concerns of toxicities from the presence or incidence of these chemicals in well water is also going to be dangerous for children and very elderly and immunosuppressed. So that's why I was asking, because it's sort of your classic situation of trading one public health risk for another. And we didn't, it's good that we have these projects, but it's also easy to panic sometimes. And, I don't know how you weigh the risks when it's definitely present in the water supply. But I don't know there have been any human cases. I think there was one reported in, and so when is the risk high enough to worry? And it's easy to worry, but it's, I just wanted to bring it up because if the only thing that we can do or that homeowners can do is test their water, but if you have the chemicals in the drinking water, there isn't really, it's too late if you've had exposure. But it is definitely true that this particular drug appears to have a short half-life, which is great because it lowers the chance of exposure, but I don't know how to advise people to protect their wells. The biggest issue is when a pesticide is water soluble, it can get into the groundwater. So then many people, like we're lucky, we have a very deep well, but there are some people who live in older houses or who don't know that their wells are shallow, and that's who is at risk of pesticide contamination of their drinking water. I'd be really interested to know if the, how much time we can say people are safe after the spraying for the half-life that could create a risk to the shallower wells. And I don't know if there's any way to prevent it from getting in there, because if you need sunlight to break it down, but it's in the ground, they're not going to get help breaking it down. So I'd be very interested to know if we have any advice that we can give people. Because it is definitely true that, like, clinically, until recently, it's the same, it's a very, very rare, it's a very, very small risk. And so I don't know how you weigh the balance between the entire town of having private well water to the risk, the very low incidence of, or risk of West Nile virus.
That's
That's all.
basically,
Yes. Sorry,
Tricky.
if you want to answer those
I
questions.
was not going to answer the questions. I was going to just re-articulate the one action item that the board has tonight, which is
Oh, okay. Yeah.
because that everything you said kind of informs that, which is the mosquito project has not done this aerial spraying, this ultra low volume spraying of the Zenovex. They have done the very, very targeted larvicide, right, which does not have the same effects. And I don't know if Sarah was going to go into that. They will not proceed with the Zenovex spraying of that isolated area that was proposed unless we say, yes, please come in and do that, at which there is also an opt-out option for private homeowners, which I think Sarah was going to go into. And so we kind of have the decision of, do we ask them to come in and do the spraying and then obligate homeowners who do not want to have their property sprayed to then have to opt out? Or do we decline the spraying altogether? And then it would be on individual homeowners to go seek, if they wanted to have spraying done at their home, they would have to go seek that privately. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of our decision point. Sarah, did you want to, and for Nick and Marian, I'm not ignoring you in any way. I was trying to let Sarah kind of continue with her presentation about the background. Go ahead, Sarah.
So this is some more background information on West Nile virus here. Again, as Rebecca did state, West Nile virus is generally asymptomatic. Approximately 80% of people who contract the disease don't even know that they have it. 20% of people who contract West Nile will develop just mild flu-like symptoms. So fever, body aches, pain, GI issues. However, severe illness does affect the central nervous system and can require hospitalization and could potentially lead to death as well. So the risk of severe illness does increase with age. So people who are over the age of 65, and also people who have chronic medical conditions and people who have a weakened immune system are also at a higher risk of developing a severe infection from West Nile virus. This is something that I thought was pretty interesting to note, is that in 2024, there were 5 reported cases of West Nile virus in Middlesex County, which was about 30% of all West Nile virus cases in the state. And the ones that get reported are the ones that end up hospitalized and are considered to be severe cases. And I thought that was just interesting to note as well. There is currently 1 case of West Nile virus in Middlesex County in 2025. That happened yesterday, we were informed. So this is a little bit more information about the larvicide here. This is all included on the Central Mosquito Project website, and that's where this information is from. But I did want to read about the catch basins from the email directly. So this is from the Director of Operations from the Mosquito Control Project, and I'm going to pull up this map that he sent me so that we can all look at it together. It's not labeled with street names, so you're just going to have to do your best to figure that out with Sherborn. I just got this today. So these are maps of catch basins in Sherborn that have been treated this season. So that's 1,051 catch basins. There are a few streets in Sherborn that don't have any catch basins. If you aren't aware, are essentially stormwater drains. And that's where mosquitoes can procreate, and it provides really good conditions for them to thrive and become full-grown mosquitoes. So they go around and use different catch basins throughout the year, and it depends on the different time of year, and also depends on the time of year what they want to use to treat them. So they use a combination of, forgive my pronunciation for this, Bacillus thuringiensis and Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis, BS and BTI. And I did include some information about those bacteria here as well, and the potential. So these are all of the catch basins. And then this is the information about the different bacteria that they use. I'm to share both of my screens here. Okay, there we go. So they said that they are primarily using these 2 here. BTI is non-toxic to humans, birds, amphibians, reptiles, and other animals, and poses no risks to crops or water supplies. However, BSPH does have potential risk when used in certain areas with high organic content. And what that means, to my best understanding, is that when used in places like ponds that are swimming pools, abandoned swimming pools, and other areas where there might be aquatic organisms, and BSPH should not be consumed by people at all. It could be potentially toxic. However, again, I'm reading from this email that I got today that the products that they use they don't just use specifically I misread that. So they have been using both BTI and BSPH, so these 2 here, for treating the catch basins. I don't know which one got which treatment. But again, catch basins are just in Sherborn, they're just stormwater drains and they don't impact the drinking water, to my knowledge. So that's a little bit more about the larvicide, but we are here to talk more about the adulticide, which is with the Zenovex. So
Right. That's the decision point, is the adulticide. And the bacterium for the larvicide is generally highly targeted to mosquitoes, and that include things like black flies as well.
yes, they essentially take, it's about this big, this one little tablet, and they put it in the catch basin, and then it dissipates fairly quickly.
I think that was everything you had put together, Sarah, and thank you for all of the back and forth you've had with the mosquito project, and gathering all of this in a nice succinct way for our board to be able to review and for the public. Before I go to community comments and questions, I just wanted to turn to the board to see where the board is in terms of comments or questions before we hear from the community. Go ahead, Diana. You're muted, Diana. Hang on, you're muted.
Yeah, my dog was playing with this toy, so I didn't want you guys to hear that. Anyway, my question is with respect to the spraying, that I realize we're going to be offering up the option, people can opt out, but how far, when you spray a mist, it travels, and I realize that's what weather conditions dependent. How so I guess maybe how far could one expect that to travel? Because it's going to cover a certain area. Did the company have an estimate of, like, they're driving down a road? Is it going to, do they expect to get the mosquitoes living like 10 feet on each side of the road? Or what are the expectations of the coverage?
I certainly don't know that answer. I'll see if Sarah or Mark
I
has any.
do know that answer. I just want to make sure I'm getting it right here. Because there is a formula that they use. And I just want to make sure that I'm using the most accurate
And I
formula.
had a second question, which, because mosquitoes love me, is how far can we expect a mosquito to fly? Because I mean, I love that they're proposing targeted, but Sherborn's not that big. Can a mosquito fly from Farm Road and come visit me on Town Line Road?
That is an excellent question, one of which I also wanted to know. I certainly, if anyone in the public knows how far a mosquito can fly, it is our question of the night. Oh,
Hey,
Nick, go ahead, Nick.
It's very simple. They fly as far as they have to in order to find a blood meal.
Oh, they love me.
Exactly. So if there's nothing to feed on nearby, they keep flying. And if there's a little bit of breeze, the breeze helps them. So they can actually go quite a ways. But quite a ways from this truck on this night, there's too many uncontrolled variables. You have no idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That is very helpful. Thank you, Nick. Go ahead, Sarah. Sarah, did you find the information you were looking for?
Oh, yes. So it doesn't travel very far. I believe it goes about 1 acre, less than 1 acre. I'm still looking for the calculation here. It's in my email. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I think that there's kind of two ways to look at that, which is,
Oh.
go
Sorry,
ahead, Sarah. Go ahead.
it's about 8 to 10 meters.
Okay, which is not very far.
No.
What is 8 to 10 meters? Like
The
one spraying?
the spray, the machine that they have on the back of a pickup truck, they use a GIS system to be able to send that out. It is ultra low volume so that they're very, very fine particles that will stay suspended. It's dispensed in the evening to try to target mosquito species. As we know, there are also nighttime pollinators who are also present. This is not species specific, and so it would also affect those nighttime pollinators, but it would not affect honeybees, which are not out at night, or other bees at night. The I think what Sarah was trying to point out is that the range with, if you were to make it completely dead still with no wind, how far could that shoot? It's, maybe 10 meters from the road. What Diana was pointing out is given whatever the weather conditions might be on the night that they spray, it could travel farther beyond the roadway. Did I capture that right, Sarah? Yeah. Okay, other board members, any more follow-up questions for Sarah or for Mark as well? I know Mark's had a night, hasn't had to talk as much tonight.
Yeah, it
which is-
hasn't been too bad. And again, I
is-
think
yeah,
what
go
the
ahead, Mark,
summary
go
was
ahead.
just, the summary you gave, Julie, is appropriate. And I was looking into AI to see if they had some answers on aerial spraying as we were discussing this, and it is dependent on the weather conditions at the time.
I
Yeah.
really want to clarify that it's not aerial spraying, it's ULV spraying, because aerial spraying can get the entire town in kind of one go. ULV spraying is very concentrated. It's a very low dose that is only harmful for mosquitoes. I just, for purpose of the record, want to clarify that it's not aerial spraying, it is ULV spraying.
And that is correct. It's ULV, which
Sorry.
is truck mounted. And that is a very good point you bring out, Sarah, because aerial spraying would be helicopters and airplanes spraying.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because the half-life is really low, like how many days would we be able to say to people it's probably gone, it's done its thing, and now we don't need to worry?
It's a matter of hours. I want to make sure that I'm getting the correct number here again.
And I think that we can follow up if we want that a little more specificity with Tim over at the Mosquito Project.
Yeah, I think that would be good because I think people would like to hear that, you're probably, it's great, you're fine 12 hours later, because some people, maybe might not want their children to be playing outside, or maybe people who live on Farm Road it might be nice to be able to reassure them.
Yeah. And logistically, I promise community members we're going to get to you. Logistically, if the board were to vote tonight to have the Mosquito Project come in and spray that section of farm and forest, there would need to be notification to the property owners along that route. What they would at minimum want to do is close their windows and doors to make sure that their house is buttoned up for the night. Maybe bring in pets. We would also want to make sure that people had a clear pathway for opting out, and that was one of the things that Sarah had looked into. The Mosquito Project does have an opt-out form online, of which it says that it's required to be filled out 14 days prior. But Sarah has clarified, because I said that's not going to work on this timeline, that as long as people have filled that out, I think within 24 hours of the spraying, and Sarah can correct me because she's the one with the correspondence, that they would be able to input that into their GIS system to make sure that those properties were opted out. As we said, that has kind of a limit in terms of how effective it is, given that if your neighbor opts for it and it's a windy day or a windy evening, it might still end up over on your property. Okay, I'm not seeing other board member hands raised, so Nick, go ahead.
I'm going to build on Dr. Honeywell's comments a bit and talk about risk and how much you might be reducing the risk by doing roadside spraying. As we've just learned, the effective area treated by roadside spraying is very small relative to the area in which that mosquito might have emerged from some source. If you've been outside at all this summer, you know that the area is bone dry. So guess where the source of the mosquito probably was? Irrigated lawns, okay? Places like that where there has been consistent moisture. So I just think that we don't know the benefit because we don't know the impacted area. And the other thing associated with risk is when you tell people close your windows at night because there's going to be roadside spraying, what do you think they're going to do? People around Farm Pond have money to burn. They're going to call in the tick and mosquito control people who are going to, who knows, use who knows what, how much, and when. We have neighbors who actually do that. And every time they have control on their property, I smell it in my backyard, even on a very light breeze. Okay, so my concern wouldn't be so much about the roadside spraying. I think it's ineffective, and the state has no data to show that it is effective. Surprisingly enough, I was very concerned years ago when there was a serious outbreak of triple E. So I got all worked up about this. I read the literature up and down, and I was so dismayed at the lack of information that's provided by the state and gathered by the state that I wrote letters to my congressman. I wrote letters to the Mosquito Control Project, and of course heard nothing from anybody. But they just don't know what they're doing. And when they say it doesn't kill bees at night because bees don't fly at night, look at your window at night, your kitchen window that faces out on the backyard. There's all sorts of small insects, lacewings, moths, leafhoppers. There's all sorts of insects flying around at night and at dusk and dawn. So, and they don't sample for that. They sample mosquitoes. They don't sample all those other little things that they potentially could be killing. So they don't know the effectiveness of this. They have no idea if it's going to reduce the impact on people because people could be breeding those mosquitoes in their backyards, and the random one was the one that actually went into the trap. So personal preventative measures are always a good idea when you're living around bodies of water and in wetlands, and particularly at this time of year. So I'm sure that the Board of Health has promoted personal preventative measures year after year after year, and that's what I would recommend. And I would say no to the state spraying because they simply don't, in a sense, pardon me, know what they're doing or how effective it is.
Thank you, Nick. Marion Moore.
Thank you. I want to underscore the toxicity of Xenovex to aquatic organisms. Xenovex is essentially synthetic pyrethroids, and pyrethroids are very toxic to all sorts of aquatic animals, aquatic crustaceans, aquatic insects, fish. When I was in charge of a lab where we were working overseas, and we were wearing clothing that was treated with pyrethroids to protect ourselves from a tick that was carrying a very dangerous virus. But I did not allow anyone to come into our lab where we were working with aquatic animals wearing that clothing, pyrethroid treated clothing. Again, Xenofex is essentially synthetic pyrethroids. So my concern here is Farm Pond. I would want every assurance that Xenovex is not entering the pond.
And given the area that is being sprayed along Forest and Farm, we don't have the overlaid with the watershed. I'm sure if we gave Tom Trainer more time, he would do it for us. But I would say that just by guesstimate, parts of that path are within the watershed. but I would certainly let someone else with more knowledge, but Marion Nutra.
All right, thank you. I just want to underscore and support what both Nick and Marianne have said. The data that you've shown, well, some of it sounds like it's from the label of the product, but the information that we have about the relative rarity of West Nile virus disease outbreak in Massachusetts, it's 1 or 2 cases here and there, and the relative risk of really upsetting a complex and fragile ecosystem here. And there's so much data we don't have, like this spray along the road. What about all the wetlands? What about all the standing water in town that's far from a road? What about the half-life? The half-life is short. Maybe that's a good thing. But on the other hand, that means that a mosquito born 2 days from now will be unaffected. So I just have more questions than answers here. And basically, the state's, trying to do what maybe the public is clamoring for, but they really don't have enough information to do what they're doing, but they have to do something. So they're trying. But I think in Sherborn, especially with the expertise that we have in town, two experts on the panel right here, not including myself, I'm not an expert, but I am an expert in analyzing data, and I don't see any data to analyze here. So I'm really reluctant to have any of this kind of roadside spraying going on in Sherborn.
Thank you, Marion. Melinda?
Just a real quick triple ditto to Nick, Marion, and Marion. I was a little scared when I saw the map and I saw all the points right next to Farm Pond. So I just want to just emphasize, I don't know through the Board of Health how you incorporate Farm Pond into your decision making with regard to this. I don't know if you're just protecting people. So if there isn't a process for ensuring that not just Farm Pond, I mean, it was already stated, right? So other wetlands, like sort of who's in charge of protecting the water. I hope that gets as strong a look as people, right? Because we can't, we're not going to be people without clean water. And then the second thing is, if we go in the direction of spraying, I just recall from the recent past that a truck did come around my neighborhood spray. I had no idea. So it was like I was running around, where's the cat, closing windows, where are the kids? So it was already mentioned in this meeting, talking about a specific area. Let's make sure that those homeowners know. I would say I think the whole town should know, and to whatever extent we can ensure that that the town has done its best job to try to get that message out, the reverse 911, whatever that process is, if you go in the direction of the spraying, which I'm not a big fan of. Thanks.
Thanks, Melinda. Tom?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with the last 4 or 5 speakers, and I know for a fact spraying is extremely ineffective and quite wasteful monetarily. You're just not, 25-30% of Sherborn is wetlands. Spraying 10 meters off every street in town, you would not get anywhere near the source of most of our mosquito population. So, and I think I have come across papers that demonstrate how wasteful just blanket spraying is, and you heard the rest. I don't think it's worth it. And if you're interested, I have a map of the watershed, but I don't want to keep you
I also
up late.
do think that this is the usual, where we really, the people who are at risk, we should be educating them how to protect themselves. Everybody should be doing that anyway in Sherborn, but the ecosystem's very fragile. And I think it's easy to underestimate the risks, and we don't even really know what they are. So I don't know
Yeah.
if it's worth it, but that's my opinion.
56 Brewster Street. I think you might be trying to raise your hand, are you? Real hands count just as much as virtual hands. I
Pat,
think
that's
Melinda,
you. Are you?
yes, I think you were trying. I'm sorry, I don't have your name. I see you as 56 Brewster Street. Please go ahead if you have a comment or
Yeah,
question.
it's Pat LeBlanc on Ward Lane. The spraying is not effective at all. Most of the wells on this road, Ward Lane, are in the front yard, so therefore the spray is going to be spraying their wells. That's number one. Number two, when they do come through and spray from the road, you're not notified. Number three, it's ineffective anyway because they're spraying when it's totally dark. Most mosquitoes are very active at dusk. Just try standing out there and counting at that time. They're not around at 1, 2, and 3 in the morning. So what are we doing? It's totally ineffective. We should be after the larva, not spraying the adults.
And in fact, the targeted larvicide has been applied by the Central Massachusetts Mosquito Project, Mosquito Project. And again, that was the targeted map that Sarah had pulled up earlier, which is much more species specific. I do not see any other community hands raised. And so I think at this point, unless the board has other questions, the question before us, and Mark and Sarah, please correct me if I have this in any way wrong, was that Tim was basically proposing the spraying along Forest and Farm of the Zenovex, but they would not move forward without kind of permission or authorization from the Board of Health.
That's
That is
correct.
what we determined. It was when this first came before us, because this is West Nile, this is not Tripoli that we're talking about. We wanted to bring this to the board for discussion and to have this community comment period. At this point, that is the only proposed area for spraying was that section of Forest and Farm. Of course, if we have a positive Tripoli case, that will kind of change everything if anything like that were to come up. But so at this point with the board, and I think we should just do this, we can either do it through a motion and a vote, or we can do it just through a sense of the board. I think either is fine. There's nothing necessarily formal here. Unless, Mark, you think we should have a formal vote. What do you think? Usually ask Daryl what she thinks.
I'd suggest a formal vote of the
Okay.
board to decide one way or the other, and you may want to include down the road additional discussion on various mosquito management programs.
Yeah, okay. Let's see, Rebecca, do you want to make the motion?
No,
Is that what you're raising your hand to
No,
do? 'Cause you can do
I
it.
just wanted to emphasize that, like, from a Board of Health perspective, because the incidence is low to begin with, or the risk of danger is low, it's higher for a vulnerable population. The best thing we can do as a Board of Health is to encourage what actually is effective for those populations, which is to take precautions. And, when patients are neutropenic, we tell them to wear a mask. And when patients are at risk, I think that we could be telling them to wear mosquito repellent long sleeve shirts, and to take precautions that actually will protect them against West Nile virus, and maybe not increase other public health risks to the entire community when there may be a low gain from those measures. And we also, we may be selecting out for resistance by treating a really small area in a town that has such a high percentage of wetlands. And of course, we know that birds are dying and mosquitoes are their food source, and there are other impacts to the wetlands that might have a benefit to the community as well that may not. I don't know. I think it's just a very low risk with potential damage to more than just, I think the risk of danger may reach more categories than the small area where there is a definite benefit.
Go ahead, Diana.
Can I make the motion then that we not approve spraying in Sherborn for adult mosquitoes?
Yeah. Can I have a friendly amendment?
Sure.
Yeah. That we do not support the proposed area along Forest and Farm as proposed by the Mosquito Control Project, or the Central Massachusetts Mosquito Control Project. And I will move that motion. Can we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion by the board? Hearing none.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Okay, motion passes. Good luck, Sarah, capturing that motion in your notes. Okay, so Sarah, the next steps would be to Sarah and or Mark, however you guys decide to do it between you or both of you, to notify them that we are declining the Zenibec spraying in the proposed target area. And I agree, Mark, that I think we can continue to have a conversation about a mosquito control program, and certainly we should revisit this topic if we are having more positive cases around it, particularly with Triple E. I think that is a very different ballgame than West Nile.
Yes.
And we still have about 6 more weeks, 7 more weeks, depending, maybe 8 weeks, depending on
Hard
climate
frost.
before
A
we
hard
get a hard
frost.
frost. So there's still certainly time for that to occur, but at least with the cooling temperatures, we're going to have hopefully the rate of transmission declining.
Should we propose something on the website, or maybe a townwide, some kind of notification that we recommend protective measures?
I think Sarah has actually been proactive and done all of that for us, Rebecca. She's been fantastic.
Yeah,
If you were
thank
to
you.
go to, I think you can link to it from the main page of the town website, and on the Board of Health site, Sarah, please correct me, there is information particularly about personal protection. I think there might be information about reducing standing water in your yard, particularly if you have old tires. If you have a bird bath, you should dump it out at least once or twice a week. Just that kind of information. But Sarah, I will, since you are the one who put the information up, I will let you speak to what's there.
Yeah, so we've done 2 news blasts every time there's a change in the risk level. I'm gonna link them in the chat here now. If you aren't subscribed to the Board of Health Newsflash, you can. And then we also have, so that was our most recent news flash that was posted. And then we also have this page as well. And
Sarah, your audio is a little choppy, but what we got is there is a link in the chat.
Yes.
And there is also, if you go to the town website, and particularly if you follow to the Board of Health website through the town, you'll be able to find more information there. Again, personal protective measures, and then reducing mosquito breeding in your yard as you are able to. That is all that we have listed on our agenda. And so we do not have meeting minutes for our August 20th. We should hopefully have those by our next meeting. So why don't we talk about our agenda for our September 17th meeting. We have 2 variance hearings, Mark. We had 3, but 1 has been moved, right?
Right now, it still shows 3. I'm not sure if we're going to remove one or not. I'd have to check with Sarah and Jean on that to see if any of those have been removed. But there are 3, 7:30, 7:50, and 8:10 are variance hearings.
I believe
Okay.
it's just two now. I'm
Okay.
double checking.
I think Jean had sent notice that one of those hearings was getting moved to the October
Okay.
meeting. We got notice from the engineer that it was gonna get moved.
Is the appeal that we received on an agenda
Yep.
in the future?
Yep, so the review of the, so we did receive an appeal. It was within the regulated 14 days of the decision. And so the next step will be on the September 17th, not August, it's September now, September 17th meeting, that we will review to see if the appeal meets the criteria as set out in our regulations. If so, I think it would be best to then, if we determine it does, to hold the hearing at the October meeting. Again, I think the intention of a hearing is to make sure that no one misses it and is not surprised. And so I think that's how we would proceed. So you'll see information in your next packet. I'm trying to think about what else.
I do have two items, Julie, that
Yeah,
have been presently being reviewed with the DEP, Mass Department of Environmental Protection. One is top cover over a system. It will relate to 30 North Main Street, so Steve's aware that he will have to remove himself from the vote. And then there's a request for showers, or one shower at the First Parish UUAC Church. And as I receive more information from DEP as well as my research, we'll see where it goes. And it may be, an item that could be on that agenda, or maybe the October 1st agenda, but possibly put it as a placeholder at this point.
okay. And for the showers, that is potentially a design flow review with a comparison?
Yeah, we've requested from the church more information on the use and their water meter readings to see if they're exceeding their design flow. If they're not, there'll be some decision made. And the purpose of the shower was for one employee, according to the church, to, well, we can talk about it at the meeting. I don't need to
Okay.
discuss it now.
Yeah, but that's totally fine. Okay. Anything else that we know of? If not, if anything comes up, Sarah tries to have the agenda formulated by the Thursday prior to the meeting, and then anything coming in last minute by Monday morning for when it's posted. And then after that, it would have to be an urgent matter, so. Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Hearing no further discussion.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Thanks so much, everyone. Enjoy your evening.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Bye.
Aye.